I used to think freedom would taste like pizza. Hot, greasy, overloaded with cheese and carbs, everything I wasn't allowed to want growing up. But freedom came in paper form. My first paycheck. I stared at it on the Jeep ride over, letting the numbers burn into my skull like proof that I had finally made it. 3 weeks into my job at the call center, night shifts that left my voice hoarse and my body wired. But I endured, because this meant I could move out. Away from Tito June and his wandering eyes, his drunk midnight rants, the house where every room felt smaller than my skin. That paycheck was supposed to fix things. Rent, food, maybe even a secondhand blender. I even skipped therapy last week to save for this dinner, just me and Allison, my one constant since college. She always made things lighter, funny in a smart-ass way, the type who could roll her eyes and still make you feel like laughing. But when I opened the envelope in the back of the Jeep, the number didn't match what I expected, not even close. HR called it a tax adjustment. I called it a kick in the gut. As I slid into the sticky red booth at Pizza Hut on Taft Avenue, I felt the weight of that disappointment pressing into my chest. The AC sputtered like it had asthma, and the air smelled like reheated crust and pine sol. But it didn't matter. I was out. Free. Sort of. Allison sat across from me, her eyeliner smudged like she'd run here in the rain. "This place hasn't changed since college," she said, fanning herself with a laminated menu. "Still smells like a sweaty oven." We ordered a large meat lovers, extra cheese. It was our tradition. Celebratory carbs, shared complaints, laughter that sounded too loud against the dull hum of the ceiling fans. I smiled for real this time. For the first time in weeks, until her phone buzzed, just once. She checked it, grinned, then froze. Her face changed, eyes narrowed. She turned the screen toward me. "That first bite looked delicious," the message read, winky face and all. We laughed. At first, wrong number probably. Creepy but harmless. I cracked a joke about pizza fetishes, and Allison rolled her eyes like she always did. We pushed it aside, focused on the food, until her phone buzzed again. 23 p.m. The way you lick your fingers is so sexy. This time there was a photo. Blurry, dark, taken through glass. But unmistakable. Allison, mid-bite, laughing. Her mouth open, greasy fingers at her lips. The timestamp said it was taken 5 minutes ago. I felt it before I thought it. The back of my neck prickled. My stomach clenched. I looked around the restaurant, heartbeat thudding in my ears. Allison's smile was gone. She went quiet, scrolling, refreshing, checking her camera roll like maybe she'd taken the photo herself without remembering. She hadn't. We flagged down the manager, a kid no older than us wearing a red cap too big for his head. He looked at the message, the photo, then glanced around like he didn't know where to start. "I'll check the CCTV," he muttered. We waited. Allison's hand didn't leave her phone. Mine was on the table, clenched into a fist. The pizza sat between us, cooling, congealing. Cheese turned to rubber. 10 minutes later, the manager returned. Pale, uneasy. It's one of our bartenders. Mark. He was tall. Handsome in the way cheap guys always are. Charming if you're drunk or desperate. I'd seen him before, Allison too. He'd flirted once when we ordered a Coke. Called me miss like it was a joke. I hadn't thought much of it. The manager showed us the screen. Mark at the bar, phone tilted just so. Direct line of sight to our booth. He smirked every time Allison touched her phone. "He's been watching us?" she whispered. The manager just nodded. We stood up. Mark looked over and smiled. Not like he was caught, like he was proud. We confronted him, there in front of the bar under the weak glow of a dying ceiling light, with the smell of frying oil thick in the air. He didn't flinch, didn't even try to hide his phone when Allison demanded to see it. "You serious?" he laughed. "You want to go through my phone?" "Yes," I snapped. "Now." He shrugged. "All right." Mark opened his gallery without hesitation. Not because he was innocent, but because he didn't care. I scrolled. There were photos, dozens. Some blurry, some zoomed in too close, all of them clearly taken without consent. Women eating, texting, fixing their hair. A mother helping her daughter tie a shoelace. A girl in a school uniform biting into a breadstick. "You call this fun?" I asked, my voice louder than I meant. He leaned back against the counter like he was posing for a magazine shoot. "I didn't touch anyone. It's just photos. Compliments, really." I wanted to slap the grin off his face. Allison was trembling, now not with fear but fury. "You're a creep," Mark shrugged. "I'm not the only one. Check TikTok, it's a trend." We turned to the manager, expecting backup, some kind of policy, anything, but he was already retreating. "We can't really stop someone from using their phone unless there's a threat." Allison and I stared at each other. "Call the police," I said. They came. 2 officers, one tall and bored, the other clearly new and nervous. They looked at the messages, the photos, then at Mark. "Was there a threat?" the older one asked. "No," I admitted. "But then it's not a crime. Not really. But he's stalking people. Without threats or violence, we can't detain him. He didn't even post them online." The manager stepped in. "We'll, comp your meal. And dessert. On the house." Mark winked. And that's when it broke inside me. The realization. Nothing was going to happen to him. Back at home, if you could still call it that, Tito Jun was smoking by the kitchen window, shirtless, scratching his stomach. I walked past him without a word. He followed. "Oh, you're home early. Your boyfriend didn't like the pizza?" I ignored him. He grinned, took a drag, and blew the smoke into the hallway. "He took pictures, right? You should be flattered." "He likes you. You're pretty." I slammed my door, cried into my pillow for the first time in months, not because of Mark, not just him, but because I knew, really knew, that this was the world. Where men like Mark got away with it, where police shrugged, where managers offered free dessert like it was a peace treaty, where your uncle thinks being sexualized is a compliment. I was 3 months clean from cutting. My wrists still bore the faint marks. They itched that night bad, like ghosts trying to claw their way back in. At work, I couldn't focus. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Every chat window from a client made me panic. The fluorescent lights overhead seemed to hum louder. My headset felt too tight. My supervisor pulled me aside after my second mistake that shift. "You're too sensitive for this industry," she said, smiling like it was advice. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but all I did was nod. That weekend, Allison texted, "Want to go back to Pizza Hut?" My treat. I hesitated, but I went. Same booth, same sticky floor, same busted AC. Only now I sat with my back against the wall. I scanned every staff member twice, watched their hands, watched their phones. When I took a photo of our meal, I checked the reflection in the window behind me, just in case. That's who I am now. Not paranoid. Prepared. It's weird what you remember. Not the smell, not the fear, not even the messages. I remember the way the cheese pulled apart on that first slice, the sound of Allison's laugh when she said, "We're adults now, we eat dessert first." I remember the hollow feeling after Mark's wink, the silence as we walked to the parking lot, not talking, just breathing. The way jeepneys idled under that flickering neon sign, smoke curling into the humid air like ghosts escaping. I never told my mom what happened. She had enough to worry about. I never posted about it either. What would people say? That's nothing. Or, at least he didn't touch you. Or, just block him. Easy words, safe words, from people who've never had to look over their shoulder at a Pizza Hut. Allison stopped going to that branch. I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe because I want to take the space back. Maybe because it reminds me that danger isn't just in alleys and back seats. It's in booths, beneath flickering lights, served with extra cheese. I still sit with my back to the wall. I still flinch when my phone buzzes. But I'm still here, and that matters. Even if the last slice tastes like memory and regret. Even if the laughter now comes softer, more careful. Even if every visit is a quiet protest. Harassment isn't about the moment. It's about the way it lingers. Like grease you can't scrub off your fingers. Like a scar you forget how you got, but never forget you have. And now, every time someone says, "It's just a joke," I remember Mark's face and I don't laugh. You learn to move silently when you're used to hiding pain. I wear 3 layers to work. Not for warmth, God knows Quiapo at night is hot enough to peel skin, but to cover what shouldn't be seen. My dad's cigarette burns still pucker my skin from 2 months ago. My thighs are crisscrossed with lines I carved into myself last night, just to remember I was still real. I don't feel much these days unless I make myself feel it. Mom pretends not to notice. She has her own bruises to explain to the neighbors, and loan sharks don't wait politely at the door. They come in like they own the place, and in a way, they do. Our fridge still works, thanks to my $12,000 a month. Not much, but enough to keep the lights on, barely. I got the job at Pizza Hut because the manager, Kuya Jomar, didn't ask about the scars. Just saw I could smile on command and lift a mop bucket without crying. That was good enough. I work the graveyard shift. It's just me and Marvin, the delivery guy, whose breath always smells like engine oil and whatever cheap shabu he's using to stay vertical. He's harmless mostly, just wired and twitchy. The branch is open 24 hours, though God knows why. Between 2 and 5 a.m., we get more rats than customers. The smell inside is half bleach, half pepperoni grease. The neon sign buzzes like a dying wasp above the entrance, flickering so bad it gives me headaches. Still, I like the quiet. Most nights I sweep the tiles twice just for something to do. When things get too loud in my head, I sit in the walk-in freezer for 5 minutes. It's the only place no one follows. No sounds, no questions. That night started like any other. 2. Many Red Bulls. Marvin snoring in the back with his helmet still on. The radio playing some old OPM ballad no one requested. Then, 2:47 a.m., the door chimed. He walked in like he belonged to the dark, and everything changed. He looked like something. The storm dragged in, mud up to his knees, face gaunt and twitching like he hadn't slept in days. His left eye jumped in rhythm with the flickering sign outside. The smell hit first. Gin, sweat, and something sharp, like rusted metal or dried blood. "Personal pan. Pepperoni," he said. His voice was soft, but not weak. There was something too sure in the way he leaned in, elbows pressing into the counter like he wanted to crawl over it. His eyes didn't blink much. I hit the register keys too fast, hands stiff. "You look like my daughter," he said, breath sour. "The one they took." I didn't answer. His eyes flicked to my name tag. "Thea," he read. "Short for Althea? That's nice." I took a half step back. Behind the counter under the POS system was a tiny black button, the panic alarm. I'd never touched it before. Didn't even know if it worked. I hovered my finger above it. He smiled. Wide, yellow teeth. "Don't worry. I'm not gonna hurt you. I just want my pizza." Marvin finally stumbled out of the back, mumbling something about a wrong address and a flat tire. The man stood straighter but didn't say anything more, just stepped aside and waited, still smiling. I made the pizza fast, hands shaking. Every movement felt 10 seconds too slow. The oven timer beeped. I slid the box across the counter, didn't wait for him to open it. He tapped his fingers once, then left, didn't even take a napkin. I locked the door behind him and flipped the sign to closed, even though it wasn't. My chest was pounding. I looked at Marvin. He was already back on his phone, probably texting his dealer or his girlfriend, or both. I told myself it was over, just a weird customer, just another night. But my fingers still hovered over that panic button for a long, long time. It was 3:12 a.m. when the second door chime rang. Only it wasn't the door. It was a thud, flesh against glass. Then another, a dull, heavy bang that made My stomach dropped, I turned, and he was there, face pressed against the drive-through window like a horror movie extra. His mouth was open, lips moving, eyes wide and glassy. His forehead thumped the glass once, twice. Then came the crack, a brick thrown hard, shattering the drive-through pane. He screamed something I couldn't understand. It wasn't words, just sound, raw and angry. He slipped on the wet tile as he climbed through the window, his arms flailing. A chair tipped over. The salsa station spilled onto the floor. I ran, slid behind the counter. My knees hit the greasy tile, hard. I scrambled for the freezer key. My hands shook so bad I dropped it twice. I heard the slap of his palms on the floor behind me. Wet. Fast. His fingers brushed the back of my apron. I slammed the freezer door, locked it, pressed my back to it and slid down to the floor. I could hear him breathing on the other side. Ragged, uneven, then silence, then giggling, then silence again. My breath clouded in front of me. I sat in that freezing dark for what felt like hours, knees to my chest, still in my stupid 3 layers of clothes. My phone was in my locker. Marvin probably passed out again or ran. I cried, but no sound came out. At some point I passed out, too. The police came 27 minutes later, long after he was gone. They found a few things. A palm print in marinara on the freezer door. A single baby shoe on the counter, old and dirty. My name tag, torn from my shirt, lying in the sink. I told them everything. They asked if I knew him. I didn't. They asked if I'd let him in. I hadn't. Then they left. Said they'd check nearby cameras. I never heard back. Management reviewed the tapes and called it an incident. They gave me a laminated pamphlet titled How to De-Escalate Difficult Customer Interactions. It had cartoon drawings, smiley stick figures. They cut my next week's shifts. Said the broken window had to come out of somewhere. When they played back the footage, we saw him outside, hours before the encounter, watching me. Not just watching, mouthing the lyrics to the music playing inside, as if he could hear it, as if we were syncing, dancing. In the grainy black and white, I saw his hands dip into his coat again and again. His pockets were full. Something glinted inside, sharp. Nobody said it, but we all thought it. If I hadn't made it to the freezer, I still work nights. Not because I want to, because I have to. Dad still drinks. The loan sharks guy still checks in. We're still broke. But now I keep a box cutter in my apron. I've learned to smile less. Keep my answers short. Watch for mud on shoes and eyes that don't blink. I check the drive-through window every 20 minutes. Marvin calls me paranoid. Maybe I am. Last week, a regular customer came in. Quiet guy, always tips exact change. He handed me a folded newspaper clipping before leaving. Thought you'd want to see this, he said. It was an article about a missing girl from Pasig. The grainy photo showed her in a Pizza Hut uniform. Same round cheeks, same dark eyes. The caption read, "Last seen entering a Pizza Hut." The picture could have been me. Maybe one day it will be. Now when the door chimes, I grip my cutter tight. When I close the freezer, I count to 3. When I mop the floor, I check behind every counter, because I know no one will protect me. Minimum wage buys silence, not safety. And some nights, I swear I hear humming behind the freezer door. The same tune from the night he crawled in. The same song we both mouthed along to, even though I never taught him the words. I used to dream of wearing a white coat, of being an engineer. I spent my whole life preparing for it. Top of my class, always the first to raise my hand, eager to solve problems. My father, he was proud of me. Told everyone I'd make it big. That was before the stroke, before the hospital bills, before the P80,000 debt to loan sharks that hangs over us like a storm cloud. Now I'm just a delivery boy. At night I haul pizza on my beat-up scooter to neighborhoods I'd rather avoid. During the day I work at a funeral parlor because, frankly, dead bodies pay better than pepperoni. I work 16-hour shifts, split between the 2 jobs. Barely enough to cover the bills, much less the debts. Tonight's delivery is supposed to be a blessing, a big one. A VIP customer. The kind of customer who tips in crisp 500 bills. The kind you don't refuse. This might be my chance to finally get ahead, to pay down some of the debt, and maybe buy my father some new medicine. He's been getting worse. Doctor's been saying it's only a matter of time, but I don't want to think about that right now. I slip my helmet on and check my thermal pizza bag one last time. The rain's been coming down hard all night, but it's nothing new. I push my scooter out into the streets, feeling the familiar vibrations of the engine between my legs. It's not much, but it's what I have. The streets are slick from the midnight rain and the air smells like garbage and wet asphalt. The neon signs flicker, throwing harsh shadows on the sidewalk. Tondo's alive at this hour, jeepneys blaring, their horns, drunk men stumbling home and alley cats fighting over scraps of food. As I drive deeper into the neighborhood, I slow down near Barangay 143. It's a narrow, dimly lit street lined with small houses, some of which are falling apart. I don't recognize the address on my phone, but the app says it's the right one. Just as I pull up, two men step out from the shadows holding flashlights that blind me. "Delivery boy, pull over," one of them says, his voice deep and harsh. I'm immediately on edge. Real cops don't wear ill-fitting police uniforms that look brand new, like they're from a cheap mall store. They don't have badges that gleam too brightly under the streetlights. And real cops certainly don't smell like datuputi and gun oil. But these men, they do. They smile too wide. Smile like they already know I'm afraid. I stop my scooter and cut the engine. "Routine inspection," the other one says. I swallow hard, trying to keep my breathing steady. These men don't look like they're here to check my delivery. They look like trouble. I take a deep breath, readying myself for whatever comes next. One of the men walks up to me, his baton tapping rhythmically against his palm. I don't trust the way he's eyeing my thermal pizza bag, so I tighten my grip on the handlebar. "Let's see what you're carrying," the man with the baton says, his tone too casual for my liking. I try to stay calm, not to give anything away. I know the law, or at least I think I do. This doesn't feel right. But I open the bag anyway just to show them it's nothing but a pizza. And that's when they find it. A small bag of shabu, buried deep in the bag under the pizza box. It wasn't mine, of course, I know it wasn't, but these guys, they don't care about the truth. The first cop steps forward, presses a cold barrel against my ribs. "Prison or payment?" he asks, his breath hot and foul in my face. The second cop opens my refrigerated box. He grins when he sees it's empty, but I know better. There's a sick feeling building up in my stomach as he leans in closer, his voice dripping with menace. "Or maybe you take a nap inside." The box reeks of death. It smells like spoiled milk, like a dead dog I found in the alley last week. But worse, so much worse, it smells like my father's hospital room when the machines were turned off. It smells like the end. I realize they've cornered me. This isn't an inspection, it's a setup. My mind races, trying to figure out an escape, but it feels like everything is happening in slow motion. I don't know what happens next. My body just reacts. I ram my helmet into the first cop's nose, hearing the sickening crunch of cartilage breaking under the force. He staggers back, blood splattering across the street. Without thinking, I kick my scooter to life. The engine roars, but it sounds distant, like it's coming from somewhere else. The sound of my own heartbeat pounds in my ears as I slam the throttle down, swerving past the cops who are already pulling their guns out. Bullets crack the air around me, but I don't look back. My hands are shaking so bad I almost lose control of the scooter. I drive like a madman, dodging potholes and puddles, the streets blurring past me in a mess of neon lights and shadows. The rain makes the roads even slicker, but I don't slow down. My chest is tight, my breath coming out in short bursts. I keep my eyes locked straight ahead. I don't stop until I hit the Pasig River. My scooter sputters, and I finally pull over to the edge, vomiting into the polluted water. It's a violent, shaking release of everything I've been holding inside, but I don't have time to be sick. I need to keep moving. I know that if I stop now, if I let myself breathe, it'll all come crashing down. I don't go back to the restaurant. I don't call my manager. I don't know what I would even say. How do you explain something like this? The next day, my manager finds me few $1,000s for the lost pizza and the damaged uniform. He says, I should have handled it better. What are you, a rookie? He snaps like I wasn't just trying to survive. But then I find out something worse. The VIP order that I delivered was placed from a burner phone, registered to a known drug den. The cops had set me up from the beginning. They wanted me to take the fall for something worse. Now, every time my phone pings with a new delivery request, my hands shake so bad I drop my keys. I can't help it. The fear's in my bones now. I can't forget their faces. I can't forget the cold barrel against my ribs. The worst part? My father's medicine is running out tomorrow, and the loan sharks? They're texting me, sending pictures of my little sister's school uniform. The threats are getting real, and I know I don't have much time. But what choice do I have? I tighten the straps on my helmet. I tell myself that I'll just keep delivering, because if I stop, if I quit, everything will fall apart. My father will die. My sister will be sold to some karaoke bar, and I'll end up just another faceless body at my second job. The app pings again. Another VIP order. I press accept. Minimum wage doesn't just pay in pesos. It pays in the weight of a cold gun barrel pressed against your ribs. It pays in the smell of fear sweat that clings to the seat of your scooter long after the delivery is done. But worst of all, it pays in the knowledge that no one will miss a delivery boy, and I know that all too well. It wasn't supposed to be like this. When I signed up to be a delivery driver for Pizza Hut in Blackwood Creek, I didn't think I'd be stuck working late-night shifts in the worst parts of town, driving a car that barely ran, and living paycheck to paycheck. I always thought I'd be more than this. Someone who had a nice place, a reliable car, and a future that didn't feel like it was always one bad break away from falling apart. But here I am, at 26, scraping by. My ex-boyfriend Jason left me with nothing but unpaid bills, a busted car, and a bruised ego. I'm 2 months behind on rent, and my phone's full of overdue notices I can't afford to deal with. Every day is a fight to make it through the next. But you don't get to be picky when you're broke. I take what I can get, even if it means working in a town like Blackwood Creek. Blackwood Creek isn't the kind of place that shows up on postcards. It's the kind of town where people lock their doors before sunset, and everyone knows to avoid the areas with bad streetlights and even worse reputations. I can't afford to be choosy about where I go, though. Every tip counts. Every pizza delivered means I'll be able to afford gas for tomorrow, or maybe even pay part of that overdue bill. It was a Wednesday night, and it was already shaping up to be one of those rough shifts. My manager, Dave, had been on me all evening about how slow I was, but it wasn't my fault that half the deliveries were to sketchy neighborhoods where GPS barely worked. The rain started coming down an hour ago, turning the streets into a mess of slick, wet traps. And now, I was on my last delivery, one I was hoping would be quick. The address was for a house on Willow Lane. The house looked like it had seen better days, but it was isolated and quiet. I'd been to worse places, but this one gave me the chills. I should have trusted my gut, but I just grabbed the pizza and went for it. I pulled up to the end of Willow Lane, the rain beating against my windshield, making it hard to see. The only light in the area was a single flickering porch light that barely illuminated the cracked pavement. The house was tucked behind overgrown trees, almost hidden. It had an eerie feel to it, like something out of a bad horror movie. But I had a job to do. I grabbed the pizza bag and my flashlight, stepping carefully over the uneven pavement. My shoes splashed through puddles as I made my way up to the porch. The rain was soaking through my uniform, and my heart was already racing from the tension of being in a place like this so late at night. As I knocked on the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The door creaked open slowly. I blinked as my eyes adjusted to the dim light, and there, standing in front of me, was a man, probably in his late 40s, thin and gaunt, his face pale under the flickering light. His eyes were dark, hollow, and there was something unsettling, a about the way he stared at me, almost like he already knew me. "Finally," he said, his voice calm but unnervingly so. "I've been waiting." I forced a smile, trying to push down the unease in my stomach. "One large pepperoni, extra cheese, that'll be $18.75. But instead of taking the pizza, he just stared at me, his lips curling into a strange smile. "You know, I'm actually the Archangel Michael." I froze. Was this some kind of joke? I blinked a few times, unsure of how to respond. Sir?" He didn't seem to notice my confusion. His smile faded and his eyes darkened. "You don't believe me?" That's when the atmosphere shifted. Something inside me told me this wasn't just an awkward customer. Something was terribly wrong. Before I could even process his words, his hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, pulling me inside the house with a terrifying force. The door slammed shut behind me with a loud bang that echoed in my ears. I tried to scream, but the air seemed thick, suffocating. The pizza hit the floor with a soggy thud, but I didn't care. My heart pounded in my chest as I yanked my wrist, trying to free myself from his iron grip. His eyes were wide now, wild, almost manic. "You're one of them," he hissed. "One of the deceivers." I didn't know what he meant by that, but it didn't matter. I was in danger. "I just work for Pizza Hut, man," I tried to explain, desperation creeping into my voice. "Please, let me go. I'm just doing my job." But his grip didn't loosen. Instead, he pulled harder, twisting my arm painfully. His breath was ragged, his words coming in quick, sharp bursts. "No, you're here to deceive me. You're working with them." I kicked back, my heel connecting with his shin. It didn't stop him, but it made him stagger for a second. That's when I saw it, a lamp nearby. With every ounce of strength I had, I grabbed the lamp and swung it at him. It cracked against his head with a sickening thud. He staggered back, his grip on my wrist loosening just enough for me to wrench free. I didn't look back as I bolted for the door. My legs were shaking, but I didn't stop running. I couldn't stop, not when I could still hear him growling behind me, his voice distorted with rage. I flew through the door, almost tripping on the wet steps as I ran into the rain-soaked yard. My car was still parked on the street, running, thank God. I rushed to the driver's side door, fumbling with the keys as my breath came in panicked gasps. Just as I slammed the door shut, I heard the sound of pounding feet behind me. My heart dropped as I glanced through the rearview mirror. Gary, his face twisted in fury, was charging toward the car, his hands outstretched like he was about to grab me. I shoved the key into the ignition and hit the gas, tires screeching as I pulled away from the curb. The rain made the streets even more treacherous, but I didn't care. I had to get out of there. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely grip the steering wheel, and every time I heard a noise from behind, I jumped. I kept glancing at my rearview mirror, half expecting to see him chasing me down the road, but nothing was there. He wasn't following me, not physically anyway. Still, my mind raced. What the hell had just happened? Who was that guy and what did he want from me? I couldn't go back to that house, I knew that. But what about the pizza, the job, the bills? Would I ever be safe again? The police never found Gary that night. By the time they arrived at the house, it was empty. Just a half-crushed pizza on the floor and a broken lamp. There were no signs of a struggle and no sign of him. It was like he had vanished. The next day, I quit Pizza Hut. I didn't even bother calling Dave to explain. There was no point. I wasn't going back there. I wasn't going back to Blackwood Creek. But that night, that whole experience, it haunted me. In a town like Blackwood Creek, danger was never far away. I knew it, but it wasn't until that night, until Gary's hands were around my neck, that I realized how close I'd been to not making it out at all. I walked away from that life, but I couldn't escape what had happened. Every knock on a door, every new delivery request reminded me of that moment, of Gary, of the danger that was always lurking just around the corner, and for the first time in a long time, I was scared. But I couldn't stay scared forever. So, I started over. It was the only choice I had left. I'd been working at the Pizza Hut in Millfield for about a year. Not the worst job I'd ever had, but sure as hell not the dream either. Between late-night grease traps, rude customers, and a Civic that coughed louder than it drove, my nights blended together into one long chain of lukewarm deliveries and forced smiles. 3 months back, my girlfriend Lisa walked out. Said I was stuck in town, stuck in life, stuck in my own damn head. She wasn't wrong. After she left, the rent started piling up. My Honda started rattling like a junkyard orchestra, and my landlord started taping notes to my door that said final notice in bold red ink. So yeah, I was saying yes to every shift they offered. Sunday doubles, Friday night chaos, even the weekday graveyard runs through the sticks. Anything to buy another week under my roof. The Pizza Hut in Millfield didn't exactly see a rush past 9 p.m., but we stayed open till 11 anyway, mostly to cater to drunk college kids and midnight munchies. That night, October 23rd, I was 2 hours into my shift, the kind where the air smells like burnt cheese and the oven hum gets in your bones. It was pouring. Rain coming down like buckets were being dumped from the sky, the kind of rain that makes your shoes squish the second you step outside. I was leaning on the counter, watching my manager Dave clean under his nails with a pen cap, when the order came in. It beeped on the system and printed out on that greasy, curling receipt paper. I grabbed it out of habit. 1 large cheese pizza. Nothing weird about that. But then I read the second line. +2 lbs raw ground beef, packaged separately. I squinted. Dave, you seeing this? He glanced over, already annoyed. Yeah, that's the one that guy called in about. Raw beef, like uncooked? Yep, said he'd tip well, paid over the phone. I looked at the ticket again, feeling a knot in my stomach. Something about it felt off. Dave tossed me the cooler bag we usually used for wings and said, "Put it in there. Beef's in the walk-in." I hesitated before heading to the back. The raw meat was wrapped tight in butcher paper, cold to the touch. It wasn't from us. We didn't carry ground beef like that. This was personal stash stuff pulled from the fridge like it had been waiting. I packed it up, grabbed the pizza, and headed out. The address was Old Mill Road. That should have been my second red flag. Nobody decent lived out that way, just broken fences and houses that looked like they lost fights with time. The Civic wheezed as I eased it down gravel roads that turned to dirt. GPS flickered on and off like it was second-guessing itself. After about 20 minutes of careful driving through what might as well have been a forest, I saw it, a sagging farmhouse tucked behind some trees, its porch light buzzing like it wanted to die. No cars in sight. No sounds except the rain and the occasional creak of branches overhead. I got out, hoodie up, and jogged through the mud with the order in hand. The second I hit the steps, the front door creaked open. No knock. No bell. The man standing there looked like your average uncle, mid-40s, graying stubble, flannel shirt. But his eyes locked on me too fast. His smile stretched a second too long. "You made good time," he said, taking the pizza box. I held out the cooler. "And here's the, special order." He took it with both hands like it was sacred. "Perfect, nothing like the taste of fresh meat." I laughed nervously. "For your dogs, or?" He looked me in the eye. "Something like that." Behind him a door creaked. A kid, small, pale, maybe 6 or 7, peeked out. His eyes were huge, frightened. The moment he saw me looking, he slipped back inside, fast. My gut turned. Something was wrong here. Real wrong. The man, Gregory Haskins, according to the receipt, hadn't stopped smiling. "That was my nephew," he said, like it explained everything. "He's a little shy." "Right," I said, forcing a nod. The pizza and meat were already in his hands, but I held out the receipt and pen. "Need you to sign for this." He scribbled something barely legible. "Keep the change," he said, handing it back. I didn't. Look at the amount. My eyes were on that hallway door, half expecting the kid to reappear. "Appreciate it," I mumbled, turning away fast. My feet squelched in the mud. The rain soaked through my hoodie in seconds. I didn't care. I just wanted to get back to the car. When I shut the Civic's door, I didn't even start it. I just sat there, breathing hard, staring at the house. That kid's face wouldn't leave my head. Those eyes weren't just scared, they were pleading. I pulled out my phone. No bars. Of course. I drove until the signal came back, the wipers barely keeping up, headlights bouncing off trees like ghosts. Finally, near the county road, I pulled over and called 911. "Dispatch, what's your emergency?" This is gonna sound weird. I just made a pizza delivery and something's not right. I told them everything. The raw meat, the way the guy talked about it, the kid who looked terrified. I didn't mention the smile, but I probably didn't need to. My voice was shaking by the time I finished. The dispatcher asked for the address and said they'd send someone to check it out. She sounded polite but also tired, like she'd heard crazier. I hung up, heart still hammering. Back at the store, Dave just raised an eyebrow when I walked in soaking wet. "Customer give you grief?" "Something like that," I muttered, tossing the receipt on the counter. He didn't press. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing the kid's face. I didn't know if I'd done the right thing or if I should have kicked that damn door in. I didn't expect a call back. Most times, 911 doesn't follow up unless something serious happens. But just before midnight, my phone rang. Unknown. Number. I picked up fast. "This Jake Reynolds?" "Yeah. Who's this?" "Deputy Klein with the Millfield Sheriff's Office, following up on that call earlier." I sat up in bed, sheets twisted around my legs. "You checked the house?" "We did." "Man named Gregory Haskins. Said he ordered pizza and ground beef. Lives there with his nephew. Kid's name is Tyler. Looked fine to me." My stomach dropped. "You talked to the kid?" The deputy hesitated. "We saw him. Didn't say much. Like the man said, shy." I swallowed hard. "What about the meat?" "Guy said it was for his dogs. Had 2 big shepherds in the back. We didn't see anything illegal. Look, I get it, you got a bad feeling. Happens. But we didn't find anything worth pursuing." "So that's it?" I said, voice flat. "That's it." He hung up before I could argue. I stared at the ceiling, phone resting on my chest. That house, that kid. I knew something was wrong. But how do you prove a feeling? I thought about driving back. About going to check myself. But I didn't. The next night, I told Dave I wasn't delivering to Old Mill Road anymore. He didn't ask why. Weeks passed. The story faded like a dream. But the memory didn't. It just got quieter. I kept seeing that look, that wide-eyed fear. I knew I hadn't imagined it. Maybe Gregory really did have dogs. Maybe the kid really was just shy. But maybe, just maybe, he was hoping I'd come back. And I didn't. Millfield rolled on like always. Leaves turned, frost crept in, and people kept ordering pizza. I took my shifts, paid my bills barely, and tried to pretend I'd imagined the whole thing. But every time I saw ground beef in the walk-in, my stomach turned. Every time a kid smiled up at me during a delivery, I saw those scared eyes instead. Never saw Gregory again. Never heard another order from that house. Dave said he stopped calling in altogether. Just one weird night, he figured. Customers get spooked or lose interest. But I knew better. Something happened out there. Something I couldn't prove. I thought about calling the sheriff again or child services. But I didn't have a name, no photos, nothing but a feeling. A strong, gut-deep instinct. And that's not enough. Not for them. One night I sat in my car outside the Pizza Hut, engine off, listening to the rain drum on the roof again. I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Lisa, my Civic, a picture of a pizza shaped like a heart from Valentine's Day. Then I stopped on a photo I didn't remember taking. A blurry shot looked like it was taken from my lap, probably an accidental press. But in the far background, framed in the window of that sagging farmhouse, was a face. Small, pale, watching. I stared at it for a long time. Maybe I should have done more. Maybe I still could, but I didn't. And that silence, the choice to walk away, it sticks. It doesn't fade. It sits with you. Late at night, I still wonder what happened to that kid. I don't deliver pizzas anymore, but I never deleted that picture. Sometimes I pull it up just to remind myself that once I saw something real and turned away.